Hey, welcome everybody. We're back. We're back after a bye week. That's my fault. I was traveling, but after a bye week, back with the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast with Tom Seymour. What's up?
Hey, I'm Tom Seymour with VHS Massacre, and thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're eventually going to get into this really fun thing where we start talking about old commercials, and we're going to play old commercials, and I think it's going to be hilarious. But we wanted to start with some film festival updates and some music updates. So for those of you who don't know, Tim Kulig, I like to call him the prince of royalty-free music. So he created close to 1,000 songs that anyone can use in their films and videos on YouTube, and even in their films for free, as long as they give accreditation. If you don't want to do that, you can pay for a license. I think it's only, $30?
Yeah.
But we're kind of we celebrating 900, or what are we doing?
So, I mean, it's right there. I mean, we might as well. It's $8.94, and I have easily 20 to 30 that I'm going to be working on this week. Literally doing the walking, reviewing, editing, final review, posting this week before the 30th.
Right.
So
yeah, that's something Tim does. He goes on these long walks, great for exercise. And when he's done creating these tunes, it's a nice thing to do. It's a good thing to do for yourself. It's like self-care as well. You're getting some exercise, you're walking, but you're also listening through to your songs for quality control.
Yeah.
Before you put them out in an album, which I think is really cool.
It's important from a musician standpoint because when you're in the studio, you have, these are 800-hour monitors, right? Each. So the sound quality of them is superb. But to listen to them on earbuds or in the car, or, a car, like an older car with like a so-so sound system, that kind of thing, like it's really important to hear it on different things, because sometimes you're like, the low end doesn't cut through on that. Like it's, you know what I mean? Or that whole part doesn't seem to penetrate the mix. So it's really important to get a different perspective and a different environment when you're reviewing music, because you may have unintentional negative consequences after you publish and you're like, oh, I really have to give these reality checks before I release them. So it's just something you learn over time,
Yeah, I know that that recording studio that was it George Engel and Sling Sang Records? I forget the name of that studio, but they had like a really old crappy radio, and that was like one of the last things they did was listening into it on the worst possible radio.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it holds together,
Yeah, I mean, most DAWs today, digital audio workstations, for people that don't know what that means, and that's basically the system that I use to record everything. Most of them have a mastering function or functions that take care of most of that. So you run it through filters, you do some balancing, you fix the levels, you make sure it's in the right channel, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, whatever. You can go crazy and do what Apple Music likes to see, which is the Atmos release. There's a big push for that nowadays, and it's a Dolby Atmos. Like they kind of prefer that, and they'll kind of promote the music if you release stuff in that format, which I might start experimenting with this fall batch, just because the problem is you have to upload another version of it. It's a high res, that kind of thing. So, but again, the bottom line is that, there's tools to get you there, but it's a process, man. It's a process.
Yeah. So Tim and I collaborate on these documentaries. You probably know them, the VHS Massacre documentaries. So the latest one's called Video Dreams, and that's about trying to get a film on the shelf at Blockbuster Video. And it's deeply personal to me. It's kind of autobiographical, but Tim's in it as well and co-narrates, and his music is in it. And so we kind of, we team up on these things, and so we're in the film festival circuit right now. First thing I would say is, like, you can absolutely do what we're doing. This documentary really it didn't really take any money. It just took time, like a year and a half of editing, because it was so much archival footage. But you can do it. That being said, we hit a pretty big landmark finally. If I could share my screen.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see.
I don't think I have to give you permission.
Yeah, sorry, I got it. Share Instagram. All right.
We got it? Yep.
Okay, so if we're looking here, so we recently got selected to CineXS Film Festival, which is a top genre film festival in the United Kingdom, and it's actually the absolute top academic film festival in association with genre film festivals. But
would they be equivalent in the U.S.?
CineXS would be equivalent to Fantastic Fest.
Okay.
And I looked this up on all sorts of search engines and with statistics. So CineXS would absolutely be equivalent to something like Fantastic Fest or Fantasia or Popcorn Frights, Film Quest. So in regard to genre cinema, that's a whole different list of top festivals. Then if we were talking about like film festivals, we'd be talking about like Sundance, Toronto, Cannes, things like that. But then New York Film Festival, but then the other top is independent, because you'd be surprised. Like New York Film Festival is not independent at all. Sundance really isn't either. Like there's top independent, which is like, that you're going to get into like maybe South by Southwest, San Francisco Indie Fest, So it's interesting. And then there's also top documentary festivals like Hot Docs and Doc NYC, but this is, by all standards, a significant achievement for Video Dreams. Something that if you talked to me a year and a half ago, as I was tinkering, I was putting together these little like vignettes, these little scenes with music and narration. I'd send them to Tim. If you can imagine how like crude it was. I mean, I was taking old VHS raw footage from films I made, films that Tim and I made like when we were like 16, 17.
Yeah. At the very least, early 20s, right? Like,
yeah.
Late teens, early 20s. Well, yeah, because I was going to UConn in West Hartford with your brother at the time. So,
yeah.
I had to be 18, 19 for me.
18, 19, yeah, for sure.
Both teenagers,
Yeah. I don't know, though, Tim. The footage said 93 on it. And
I was 18 at the time.
Oh, you were? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You're 2 years old. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I forgot.
It's hard to, it's easy to forget because, like, dude, we've been friends for what? God, that's 33 years, 34 years.
Well, also, like, when you get older, like, 2 years is absolutely nothing, you know? So you're like, oh, yeah, if I was 16 or 17 and you were 18 or 19, it's like, I don't know, kind of funny. But so anyway, but I do have to say this was, and Tim will tell you, like, I was in kind of a bad place because although statistically we're doing well, our selection rate is above 50%. This month I had gotten I think it was like 6 or 7 rejections in a row. It was just
it's disenchanting, right? Like,
yeah,
for sure. To see that all in a row, like have it break up a little bit and be like 2 off, 1 on, 2 on, 1 off. Like that's a nice feeling, right?
Yeah.
Because you feel the momentum, but then you feel like a break in the momentum when you get like a batch like that.
And they were all huge rejections. Yeah. And I was like, dude, are we, so it felt like, you're stuck on this ladder dangling and there's like, you're just looking for that solid rung to grasp. And when CineXS came in and they offered it, I was like, man, okay. So it was like a second chance for the film festival circuit to really open up into something special. It's not that we weren't doing well and winning, but like this changes things. So I really, thanks to everyone at CineXS,
Yeah.
So.
And that's the 4th one in the UK that was an official selection for this film, Video Dreams, and for this festival run. So the exciting part about that is like even though we have some disappointment that we saw with the several festivals that we got rejections from, we're seeing a trend with this one, and the trend is different markets are really resonating with the film.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're really important markets. Like we're doing well in Italy and in the United Kingdom and even in Spain, Poland. But like, if you think about really important, in France, we're killing it. We won Cine Paris, Best Director. We won Halluciana, Paris, France. We were a finalist at World Film Festival in Cannes. That's 3, 3 right in France. 2 in Italy. Torino Underground is a major underground fest there. Equivalent, some say, to Chicago Underground. It's like definitely like a for underground fests, it's legit. But the biggest thing I like to joke around about is that this concept of so we played at in the United Kingdom, Black Sunday Film Festival. We have the Spirit of Independence, which is a British Independent Film Award qualifying festival, a very important festival that we're going to play very soon, coming up in late September. So if you're in the UK, check on VHSmassacre.com, has some dates. Magoria, that's a Welsh premiere. And then Sin Excess, I think, is London. Anyway, we'll have more information on that. But that's like four UK festivals. And I'm like, so my delusion is that I'm pulling a reverse Christopher Nolan. So when Christopher Nolan, given he was probably 20 years younger than I am, but when Christopher Nolan made The Following, the story goes that he couldn't get much foothold into the film festivals in the United Kingdom. He couldn't get into any of the big ones over here, but he submitted to Slamdance over here. Eventually he gets into Slamdance. They really dig The Following. If you haven't seen The Following, I actually think it's one of his best films. I love that film. So resourceful. It's such a great film. So that played in Slamdance, but then that opened the door. It did so well. Other festivals like San Francisco Film Festival took it, and a bunch of other ones did. And like his fame grew within the United States. And then the United Kingdom kind of noticed him from here. It was really kind of backwards. So I like to say that we're doing a reverse Christopher Nolan. So I hope that's true.
Right.
It's my fantasy anyway. I think that would be cool.
No, we're about 50% through, right?
Yeah.
Does it make like 51 festivals that have so far given us a response of some kind? And I think we've submitted to like 102.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I knew, like, we talked about this before. We weren't quite there yet, but I'd even said to you, and you're like, I don't know, like, I'm not sure how many. I'm like, dude, we're going to break 100. Like, we're just, it's going to be over 100. Sure enough, here we go. But one of the other things that's been not a discouragement, but I guess maybe a strange nuance to this year's run, or this film's run rather, because it's a multi-year run, so it's going to spill over into next year. But one of the strange things that's been happening with this one is that a lot of festivals have been pushing their dates, and it's very strange, right? Like, one or two festivals here or there running behind and having to push the final entry date or the response date is one thing, right? Because I know that even some festivals that we've been in and done well over the years, sometimes it's a matter of course that there's only so much time, and they need time for people to come in and do the thing, have the review council come in and look at everything and make sure they give everybody a fair shot, right? And sometimes they have to extend dates for that reason. But this is fairly unusual. Like, we had a big batch in September that they were spread out like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and it's like the whole set got shifted by like 2 or 3 weeks. Right.
You're dead on. You're dead on. Yeah. It drifted for weeks and weeks. And when you're sitting there biting your nails
Yeah.
Because you waited. You got to think about this. You're waiting months for this notification date, and the notification date just drifts by, and you're feeling like this anxiety. But then you're realizing there's a bulk of them. I would say easily 6 festivals. Just kept pushing.
Yeah.
I did some research on like why that phenomenon might happen, and I think you're dead on with the there may be a record number of film festival entries, and in one sense that's kind of wonderful, because what that means is that we've kind of come out of COVID, and there's some thirsty filmmakers out there, and they're just making work, and they're making a lot of work, and I think that's great. I hope these festivals are not just jam-packed full of crappy Netflix movies and stuff like that. I hope it's not that. I don't think it is, but, we'll see. You never know. But, like...
Well, that's an aside that I wouldn't mind jumping into for 5 seconds. There's the whole, like, reality TV thing that's stuck around because it's cheap entertainment. A lot of times, I think, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but you can circumvent SAG because those people aren't SAG registered typically, unless it's scripted, right? And so it's cheap to make, it's cheap to pay your talent. It's supposed to be reality. It's supposed to be like real people, right?
Right.
And so like that whole thing, that's got wings and life.
People
probably
watch
beyond
it.
Yeah, people probably beyond our lifetime, right? But there's a whole different genre that is like the Lifetime / Netflix era filmmaking, which is this kind of formulaic cookie cutter rom-com
Like
action
Hallmark films, like that kind of yeah.
Like I can't tell you how many holiday movies have the exact same like milestones and second act conflict and third act resolution, blah blah blah. It appeals to like that
ridiculous misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So, one of these like rom-com misunderstandings where no one is wrong or bad.
Right. It's really an interpretation problem.
I didn't realize,
Maybe if I just opened my mouth and communicated, the rest of this movie wouldn't be necessary. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
But it's human nature, right? Like,
we have
this stupid thing in human nature where we're afraid to be forthcoming and honest about our feelings about how we feel about or how our position on something, and at the expense of or the threat or the worry that we're going to insult somebody. But if you pre-qualify something and explain to somebody like, hey, I hope this doesn't offend you, but I really think you could do better by doing X or something, like, you know what I mean? Like at least at that point you can open the conversation. Somebody might still be offended, but like, it's weird, right? And like, but there's a whole genre of films that piggybacks off that very thing.
But Netflix specializes in that, and they'll acquire stuff like from what you said, was it Lifetime and Hallmark and all these stuff. So but Netflix, it is, there's occasionally good stuff on there. I always like to say Netflix specialty really is like acquiring films that in series that they did not make and then ruining them as their finest specialty. See Squid Games or any like, speaking of which, like, you get all these wonderful British series, and then Netflix buys them and makes their own, and the quality usually suffers a bit. But
I still think that's a crazy gamble. Can you imagine being in a studio and you're like, I'm going to spend $10-20 million on this rom-com with the hopes that Netflix takes it from me and I can make some money off of it.
Yeah,
like,
it's not a
gamble.
It's a terrible bet. I mean, statistically, it's not. You'd be much better putting your money into Bitcoin or something.
Right.
No, the whole thing is fascinating. On that subject of Netflix, there was talk of Netflix acquiring Paramount And
Really?
Greg Brewer from Fanzine, he mentioned that in one of his videos, and I was like, oh no, like,
When was this?
because
Last week?
yeah, I mean, it was very recently. Yeah, there's talk of Paramount being acquired by Netflix, and I'm just like, dude, it's gonna Netflixify Paramount films. And yeah, it's true. Most of these film studios have been acquired by telecommunications in Silicon Valley anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But like that one in particular, if Paramount gets Netflixified, those movies are not going to be any good anymore. And then there's only a few. There was something going on with Warner, right? Some kind of merger
Yeah.
with Warner Paramount or something. I forget what it is, but who knows what's going to happen there. So yeah, there's a lot of consolidation because a lot of the film studios there's not enough work and there's not enough money.
Yeah.
So
And most of the streaming platforms don't make any money.
Not
or they make
much. Yeah.
Or what they make. Well, let's put it this way. The model isn't like a pay-per-view, right? It's subscription based. So the idea is you build a subscription basis foundation, and then it changes the rules as far as royalties and payments to the talent and the director, producers, that kind of thing, because instead of it being in perpetuity, it's now one shot, right? Like, classic example is the salaries paid to like lead actors in Don't Look Up, right? I think DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, their salaries are like $12.5 million, but that's it. Like, it could be watched 1 trillion times on that platform. That's all they get paid, right?
And you know, it's if you're Netflix, that's still a big check to be writing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, are they actually going to make enough, you know, streaming revenue? Like, that's one film out of their catalog of, I don't know what it is, maybe 1,000. That might not be right. I'm not sure their catalog number, but like, you know, just smeared out. And so, yeah, it's kind of a mess. We had talked about this before, but like, I was very fascinated by the digital rental and purchase window. That's the thing that they call transactional purchases.
Okay.
So this is like, I'm on Netflix. Superman just comes to Netflix. I have to pay $20 to it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe $25 to own it. You're not really owning it. $25 to have a...
Well, there's a whole discussion we can have on that.
Yeah.
After this.
Until with no end date, let's call it.
Yeah.
But so that window, my biggest curiosity was like, how much money is that? You know? And lo and behold, it's like maybe 10%.
Mm-hmm.
There was only like, I think Wicked had one of the biggest transactional windows at home, which was like 12%. So
now
that's...
is it simultaneously released in that option and the theater? Because it was around the holiday.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. A lot of them are in a gray area. Like, for instance, Superman, it still might be in the theater now. It's definitely like down to almost no screenings, but Superman, you could buy it home and you could go to the theater, but it's always towards the very gray end. And that's the kind of carrot they dangle. It's like, well, you could watch it at home right now, you know, but that only adds, let's say in a blockbuster, I would imagine 10%.
Yep.
So if Superman made 600 million, it's only going to add an extra 60 million. Now that's not nothing.
I'll take 60 million.
But, you know, as the profit becomes smaller, if the film only made 100 million, that's an extra 10 million. You know, it's actually far less than I thought.
Yeah. But it also functions as a last-ditch effort to promote what's in the theater currently, right? So
yes,
I can understand that from a marketing perspective. It's like, hey, you can still see this on the big screen, If you're too lazy to do that, or you just want to watch it on your own home screen, have at it. It's still going to cost you. It'll probably cost you more because some people have like those AMC passes or whatever, and you can get into non-premiere movies, that ones that have been in the theater for several weeks on like certain nights and pay like $5. Like, believe it or not, like AMC has like a thing with that. So you go on those discount days, it's like a matinee price discounted. You know, Ryan and I do that all the time. We'll go, and he's got like an AMC thing, and me and him and his wife will go see something for like less than $20 for the three of us.
Yeah,
like that's absurd. Great. It's unheard of, right?
Yeah. So all this stuff is fascinating. That the transactional purchases are not. That's not enough money. I don't want to say it's nothing, but it's not great.
Mm-hmm.
So then after that window, you essentially get. I mean, there's probably some cable and TV deals probably still exist. But again, that's just like scraps. I mean, there's not a lot of money there. I mean, cable's dying. And so then really you're just left with streaming. And I imagine those deals are just brokered with whatever service they're going on to. But it's actually a problem for Disney because their movie, they have a big movie in the theaters. It rotates on to Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting any extra revenue because it's all their existing subscriptions. Only thing they're doing is sustaining their subscription base.
Well, if they don't maintain an exclusivity and they continue a licensing deal with, say, like Netflix and Amazon, that kind of thing, there is opportunity there. Plus,
that's true.
Plus, you can piggyback off of that and not just like it might be available on Prime and it might be available on Netflix as like a Netflix core movie for a limited time or for a license period of like maybe 6 months, something like that. It's typically that's what it ends up being. But then more advancedly, it's, you don't have a subscription to Disney Plus, but you buy a digital copy of, say, Wicked at a discount, and now you own it for $10 on Amazon. Now, the argument there is that there's I think it's currently happening, but there's a class action lawsuit against Amazon right now because there was a woman that had an obscure series that she had bought on the Amazon platform, and it was digital. She bought it digitally, and it suddenly disappeared. And she's like, "Where the hell did my series go? I bought this whole series." And they're like, "Yeah, you're buying a license to see the series as long as it's hosted on the platform." But that description or that detail is so buried in the terms of service that like most people don't understand that that's the case. That you know what I mean?
That was VHS Massacre too. My film London Betty was deleted out of my permanent library, but they did. I made a huge stink about it, and they eventually restored it.
Well, that's great.
But they didn't restore it as a thing that other people could get, but
for you personally, yeah.
No, I mean they.
It's going to have to change.
But that's how it's always been.
Well, think about it. The games we buy on the PlayStation platform, like we buy digital copies of that because we have a digital only version of the PS5. So at any point, as long as I have a PlayStation Plus account, I should be able to download those games again. They exist in the cloud whenever I want to play it again or whatever. I probably never will, but I have the opportunity to do so because I purchased it,
Well, yeah, and there's a bigger problem with it's not a bigger problem, but like there are certain games on the PS4 that were released, and the game is not actually on the disc. It's like a certain percentage, like 20-30% of the game is on the disc. Some studios did this because it wasn't done yet, so they'd sell the disc. It was a partially completed game. You put it in your PS4, and then it would download the rest of the game.
Right.
And then you play. Well, what do you do when that service is no longer available? I mean, that's even worse because you bought the physical copy, and there's potential that it might not work at all.
Right. You basically bought a beta, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the big argument for a while there with studios. They were kind of screwing over their their fan base, big studios like Konami and Ubisoft and stuff like that, like literally releasing things day one with massive bugs, and you're like, dude, I'm paying $70 for like to be a quality control? Like, that's garbage. You know?
There's something happened with the economy where like it is, you piss money just to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to go to everything subscription based. Everything's like a vampire now.
It's unsustainable. It's unsustainable.
It's unsustainable. And I don't, maybe some of these big companies kind of have to flop and then start anew. Maybe they have to make smaller games, you know. But that's the same parallel with the studio system. I heard David Mamet, famous playwright and writer and director, he said his opinion on the film studios now was that they were defeated by their own success. And what he meant was that if you go to Warner Brothers and you walk in, there was like a receptionist, and then there was like a room full of accountants, and then there was like a slew of VPs who did pretty much nothing. And then
I knew that's where you're going.
Slew, not that all VPs, some VPs are awesome, no disrespect. But basically you had so many employees that the stakes became just unimaginable. So it's no wonder they had to make these billion-dollar films. But they're the one who expanded the way they are, and I guess they did that to compete, let's say. But now those offices are all empty.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sad path of bloat, right? Is that then what you're doing is you're trying to sustain an entity based on its bloat, and that's never. I mean, then the art suffers because you want to justify all these positions, so you have to create this level of production that's supposed to exceed all these expectations, but trying to shoot the moon with every single production, I mean, you're going to miss. And it just takes a couple big misses to tank the financials. You know what I mean? Just literally tank them out.
It's still technically art, what they're doing, I guess. I mean, and so you can really miss big, yeah, and it's catastrophic.
I mean, the genre is not for everybody, but I finally got around last week it was about a week and a half ago. I finally got around to watching Godzilla -1, right? And subtitled, well, that immediately eliminates a bunch of people that don't want to read their movie for 90 minutes or whatever. It was actually closer to a 2-hour movie. But, dude, I don't know if you ever got around to seeing it.
I hear it's awesome.
It wasn't as action-packed as I thought. There was a big drama element to it, too, which was fine because that gave me a surprise, because I've watched like Gamera and, Godzilla movies over the years. Misty 3000 was great with that. They took that whole catalog and gave it a new breath of life by riffing on it and hammering it, But, like, dude, the story was compelling. The emotionality of it was compelling. I was like teary-eyed at a couple points in it because it was like, even though it wasn't my native language, the way it was shot and the way the music was, and like, it was great. And the special effects for what? It was a $12 million movie. It was gorgeous.
I don't remember the budget, but it was very low.
It was 15 or less. And it rivaled 200 plus movies out of Hollywood. I'm telling you right now, it was that good. And granted, it's its own thing. It's its own genre. And you got to kind of like that stuff to have grooved on it. But I'll tell you, I went in with like this blank slate that I'm just like, hey, I'm going to watch this thing, see what I feel about it, just have no preconceptions, blah, blah, blah. And it was pretty cool. It was really cool. And it just goes to show you that for a fraction, I'm talking, if let's say it was 20, that's 10% of, say, a moderate MCU movie, right? A moderate Marvel, moderate Star Wars. It's 10% of the budget, and it pulled that off. That's incredible. Like that's the kind of repositioning that Hollywood studios need to think about. They need to think about how do we need to go back to the drawing board here and get rid of some of this bloat and get back to good storytelling at a budgetary price so that we don't have to hit these ridiculous milestones in the theater and in home viewership in order to justify like a profit motive with these things. And we can make that way, you can make really interesting stuff and you could take some risks, 10 to 15 million dollars. If the thing breaks even, like it's a lot lower number than something that you spent $250-300 million on, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened. One thing I don't think people talk enough about is how advertising got splintered. Like, internet comes along, it's creating a whole new realm of places you need to advertise, and like, there's no like silver bullet of where to advertise. I mean, you could say now in 2025, yeah, advertise your movie on YouTube. You know, that's a pretty good spot. But if you go back in time, there's a number of websites that carried video and aggregators, and they're just aggregator websites, and they're just you could spend an infinite amount of money, and you know, TV and cable are dwindling. Where do you spend your money? So it becomes this scenario where, okay, I think we have to spend $150 million on advertising because how are we gonna? That's how you do it. You know, that's how McDonald's does it.
It's a sci-fi movie. Where do we push it? Well, do we push it on TikTok? Do we push it on Facebook? Do we push it on Reels? Do we push it on YouTube Shorts? Because the demographic we're looking at is for like 18 to 35, and most of those people, when they go on YouTube, they look at shorts. They don't look at long form content. Like I'm just running my mouth. I don't know statistics, but
that's what it was. Like, think so. You know, go back in time, like 2007. Do we advertise on? We have a horror movie. Do we advertise on Fangoria or Bloody Disgusting or Rue Morgue or Horror Hound, or you know, like it could go on, you know, or network television. So like, I think it ends up being a thing where, yeah, it ends up being like this huge amount of money, and sadly enough, like some of the streaming is the solution. You have Netflix. Netflix is kind of contained to its own shitty ecosystem, and they're gonna put out a movie and they're going to be like, oh, this is new on Netflix, you know? So it's kind of shaking out that way, you know? But of course,
that being said, I still like Six Underground. You've never watched it.
No,
You're not a huge Ryan Reynolds fan, I know, but...
he's all right.
Yeah.
Deadpool's good, yeah.
But even if that was an acquisition that somebody made and they sold it to Netflix, I thought it was fun. So there's some zingers in there, you know what I mean? But I think they're rarer gems as opposed to like consistently that's the good stuff. Like I don't go typically to Netflix for discovery. I think I find it other ways. I find it either word of mouth, I find it by referrals from you or other friends. I think Amazon tends to be a little more
I think
well-rounded, you know.
What do I on Netflix I watch I Think You Should Leave. And then I went back and watched Detroiters, which I eventually warmed up to, and
Tim Robinson
stuff. And then I'm a sucker for detective series, usually like European, Scandinavian detective series, and British and other detective series, but not typically American ones.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Sherlock was great.
Yeah, Sherlock's fantastic. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. So yeah, streaming is very interesting. But I can, for those of you who are interested, VHS Massacre 1 and 2, which are the first two documentaries in the VHS Massacre trilogy, I guess you could call it. Those are now on Screenbox, and I can tell a quick story about Screenbox if you want. So for those of you might be interested, like, how do you get a low budget or no budget horror movie or a documentary onto Screenbox? So the way we did it was we made the best, highest quality documentary we could possibly muster. We submitted cold to Trauma Even though Lloyd was interviewed, he didn't really know what we were doing with the interview. They took it. Companies like Troma and MVD and Full Moon and SRS, independent companies, have to bundle films together to sell to larger conglomerates, larger streaming companies. That's how you do it. So that's why it's very hard to get on Screenbox with one movie. It's very hard to approach, hey, we got this one movie. Like, they almost don't have time for it,
Yeah. They got to aggregate, like, collections to save time, like you're saying. Yeah.
It's just a matter of, like, unless it was, like, some super high-profile thing. Like, for instance, I'll get into that later. But, so, Troma was bundling VHS Massacre with a bunch of other films. So they would they've licensed to FilmRise, which got us on NBC Universal's Peacock and Tubi and Mubi and all these sites. So they're doing all these bundles. Then Troma signs a deal with Legendary Pictures to produce this large budget Toxic Avenger movie with Kevin Bacon and Peter Dinklage, Elijah Wood. So they make the movie. Eventually, it just is in limbo for a long time. They can't find a buyer, and Cineverse buys it. Cineverse used to be Cinedyne. Cinedyne turned into Cineverse. Then they bought Bloody Disgusting, the horror journalism site, and then they bought Screenbox, the number 2 streaming site in the horror streaming site in the world. It's Shudder and Screenbox, back and forth. Okay, so now Screenbox has this brand new Toxic Avenger movie. They also buy Terrifier 3. They have these 2 big properties. So then what do? Well, let's license some Troma films. So they licensed like a bunch of Troma films, the original 4 Toxic Avenger movies, Toxic Crusaders, and VHS Massacre 1 and 2. So bam, we're on Screenbox, which, major horror streaming site, something I've always wanted for those films. In my head, I was thinking Shudder, but you don't always get the exact dream you want, but sometimes you get something even better. So
accidental surprise, like, and it's got a broader base or whatever. Like, like,
well,
very
it's more dedicated hardcore horror fans. Whereas Shudder, you could say, is more studio stuff and some prestige stuff. And they have, of course, Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, and also John Brennan who's in our movie. But Screenbox is said to be more for the dedicated horror fan. Shudder's slightly more casual, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
But both are brilliant. Both are really good. You can't really knock Shudder. It's pretty good. So long story short, Too Late. That's how we got on there. So it's like, I'd like to say there's like a kind of a silver bullet, but it's a real roundabout. You just never know. The only thing you can do is make the best possible movie you can. We had an idea who our market was. I didn't want to make a movie for no one.
Right. Yeah, I think it's an important thing to remember that, it's real easy to be like, well, if you try to pigeonhole your art, now you're editing as you're creating something, and that just takes away from the whole thing that you're doing. But you kind of want an audience. You want to know what the end goal is going to be. Like, I have an end idea in mind when it comes to the horror that I write. I know exactly the different people that I'd love to have use it, and that kind of comes through in the creative process. Same thing with like lo-fi and meditation music and that kind of thing. So like, I have like a loose understanding of where it's going to end up once it's produced and released out into the world. And I think that's important, but it shouldn't be the defining factor either. Like, if you want to play and mess around and bleed into different genres when you're doing horror or this or that, like when I was talking to Kelly a couple weeks ago, he had brought up this idea of doing horror combat music. And I'm like, okay. Because he's doing like, I think he's doing either, forgive me, Kelly, but it's either a Vampire the Masquerade campaign or a Call of Cthulhu, and both of which are like dark.
Yeah.
But also involve, it's an RPG. So there's character play, and there's also battles. You know what I mean? So having a genre-based battle theme, super important, because it's going to make you feel like you're in it, and it's not going to bounce you out and have this like epic orchestration that may or may not fit the you know what I mean? The campaign. So,
Yeah.
so this is why I bridge and cross over genres oftentimes, is because there's a little element that needs to be incorporated into something, that a kind of genre that I do. And you kind of have to push it, right? You kind of have to play and push it. And sometimes you come up with something great. Other times it's this quirky little experiment. And I'm like, nah, that was fun to do. Whatever. You know, people dig it or not. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just have to hold out faith. One last thing about the film festival circuit, and then I'm sure we could move into more music stuff or get into the commercial stuff, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. But I wanted to say, so we recently got rejected from Doc NYC, which is totally fine.
It was a disappointment.
It was a disappointment.
Yeah.
We had pretty much held open the whole East Coast, hoping that they would take the film, because it is so entrenched in New York culture and Kim's video, and there's connections to academia and all this other stuff that we felt like honestly was like very in line with what they were doing. So they couldn't include it this year. So we ended up kind of scrambling to enter some other festivals. But, you know, when we talk about sort of not getting exactly what you wanted, I do have faith, and, you know, I think you do too, that like we should see something really cool that happens. Yeah. And it could...
it's just a law of numbers, Tom.
Yeah.
You know, 100 plus festivals, we're going to be surprised by a couple of them that we took. They were just, you know, long shots that were like, hey, you know, we never entered this one. Let's see what happens, you know? And, you know, back to the this particular festival, the idea was great. It was like, if it was accepted and it was going to screen there, that would be fantastic. You know, we'd be present, we'd be there, but there's going to be another opportunity to do that now, you know?
Yeah. And I ended up, the only thing was that because it's kind of late in the year and our film fits in so well with Halloween season, by the time Doc NYC notified me, there wasn't that many places left, but we did find a few. And I'm going to hold off talking about them until they possibly happen.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I did kind of hedge our bets and probably ended up spending more money than I should have. But I do think that this film in particular, I really just don't know when I'll ever make a film like this again, because I do think it's fascinating. It's 30 years consolidated into 82 minutes, you know, and I think it's, you know, I think it could be fascinating to certain people.
Yeah, it shows the breadth and commitment to persistence and discipline of showing up. If I could put it in one sentence to anybody that's listening, it's literally an homage to showing up and doing the work and pivoting and knowing that, listen, anybody can do this. This is why we don't gatekeep, right? I don't gatekeep about how I do my music, right? You don't gatekeep about how you produce and distribute movies. Like, you can literally contact either one of us and we'd be happy to share anything any of our knowledge with you, because this is like 90% of it, man. Like, is the risk taking, is just the asks. I mean, shit, the asks, dude. Like, literally, like, can we get distributed by Trauma? Why would they want this thing? And that suddenly we've got multiple movies that are part of the Trauma catalog, right?
It really is a question of like going where you're wanted. And I know that sounds very obvious. It's just like it's so hard to learn this stuff. Like, you have to kind of just step out of your head. You could be working at a job being paid $8 an hour and you're being treated like crap. And then across the street will pay you $50 an hour and be really thankful you're there.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And until you move and, you know, try a bunch of stuff, you're just never going to know.
Yeah. That reality is going to stay the same, and your definition of reality is going to stay the same. And the longer you stay there, the closer you get to crystallization. And that's when people they age out of being creative and taking risk, because they've been beaten down for 30 years and they think there's nothing else than this. And then you die with this bucket full of regret. And it's like, shit, I don't want that. You know, like, I'll take a stab at this. So what if I fall on my face? I'll try something else. you know?
Yeah.
So what if this particular film, but in this case, I don't think that'll be the case because it really does show the process, and it's very emotional in some spots. Like we really share that. And I mean, dude, that's a testament to your editing and your authenticity with the narration and everything. You're literally like, dude, how many times have we just wanted to be like, fuck it, I just can't, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
it's real though. I mean, Tom, I'm sincere about it. That's the kind of thing that somebody else out there that's either never made a movie or started a movie and never got around to finishing it and really should, just for the simple fact of sharing it with the world or their art, doesn't do any work on a hard drive. I always say that. Like, my music wasn't doing any work sitting on a hard drive. I needed to get it out there. And the best solution was to use the Kevin MacLeod method and, you know, offer it with attribution. And holy crap, has it been like a cool 4.5, 5 year journey so far. I can't wait to see what else happens.
No, I mean, that Tim is like, this is the fascinating thing about Tim Kulig is like, really, like, I don't think you or I really knew that Kevin MacLeod's sort of the king of royalty-free music. We both knew who he was. We knew his music. We thought we knew how his music operated, and we did somewhat. I don't think I was aware that when he said in the documentary he did called MacLeod that he had a community of people that really believed in this stuff. I guess I didn't realize there was like an actual number of people, but once you kind of made that switch in your head to go over to the royalty-free side, I mean, you were ferocious in your work ethic, and you're at 900. I mean, if you count the ones that are being polished now, you're over 900.
It's probably about 9.25.
Yeah,
with the ones that I'm polishing. So, and I really want those to be either in the process of being published or ultimately being published, but just not shared yet by the end of September, because that'll give me 3 months to get the other 75 done. And I think I can do that. I think I could absolutely do that.
We talked about this too. You have to stagger releases. So it's very possible that you crack 1,000 before the end of the year, but they have to be released, in the
later
first
on.
quarter.
Yeah.
But, you're basically millions of people listen to Tim Kulig's music a month because it's embedded in so many YouTube videos, podcasts, video games.
Mm-hmm.
And this stuff, for Tim, who's someone who's like got this sort of Tony Robbins work ethic, like take massive action, I think in some ways you think you want this to happen faster. But as someone, for me, who's kind of spun my wheels at filmmaking for like 30 years and seen very little progress, I'm actually amazed at some of the traction. I think it's amazing.
Like what's happened so far in like four
behind
plus
the
years?
scenes, like literally millions of people listen to you like every month. But it's MacLeod style where billions of people listen to MacLeod a month, but it's how many know that they're listening to MacLeod.
Right.
So
many meme songs are just part of the internet vernacular, and you're just like, oh yeah, what was that called? That's called Sneaky Snitch. Oh, I had no idea what the name of that song was. I didn't even know where to get it.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the day. Like, I work at a college. I run the technology, and sometimes I teach. In the lab the other day, I heard someone was playing a video. I was like, that's MacLeod. It's like, I know that one. I think Sneaky Snitch. And I keep waiting for the day where I hear like a Tim Kulig. I'll be like, that's Tim Kulig.
I know that dude. We make movies together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when that milestone hits, that's going to be really interesting. So that's one reason why I'm exploring the idea of having a virtual assistant starting this fourth quarter, this fall, and just literally have somebody out there, somebody smarter than me when it comes to social media and how to do stuff online and everything. I do okay, like with this, like the technologies we've stumbled upon. I mean, literally this is night and day from what we were doing even a year ago, right?
Yeah, like, man. And that's all you. All this Riverside stuff is like, the advancements in the AI editing is just like wild,
Yeah. The fact that this thing looks at the transcript and understands that through the text, like the auto-generated text, like this is a milestone moment. that I should take the 45 seconds or so out and
Yeah.
and do an export for
Wild, man.
you know?
Yeah.
And you
I
can
guess
just keep
it's just
redoing it.
pattern
If it-
recognition, right? It just,
Yeah.
you know.
Which makes it scary with the with Suno and all that kind of stuff. It makes you, there's still a part of me that worries like, are people going to give a shit if it's from a person or not? Because it's pattern oriented and like it makes them feel the feels. So they don't really care where it comes from. And does that make me obsolete? I certainly hope not. I certainly hope people resonate with the human behind the creations. You know what I mean?
I just think try to market clearly. Like, it's like, I have mixed feelings about it. Yeah, like Suno, that music should be branded. It should say AI before the title. It should be clearly marked.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of no harm, no foul, you know? But
yeah. The weird blurry area is when, let's say you go in there and do it for ideation, right? And it gives you a full polished piece and you export it and you're like, I don't really give a shit about the whole thing. I kind of like the drums and the melody. So you extrapolate those two things out and then you plug it into your DAW and, select a drum instrument and you select a synth instrument and then you alter the notes a little bit to do the melody exactly the way you heard it in your head. It's not quite right, but you change it. At what point is it not AI at that point where you're bringing in some other instruments yourself and you had this idea, and let me be clear, I'm not doing any of these things right now, but my brain is trying to understand, yes, this is a new technology. Yes, this is a new tool. How much of it is a tool that helps me express myself versus just doing it on its own? You know what I mean?
I think you could figure out a legal interpretation. And I think you could, like, for instance, in screenwriting, I believe this is correct. If a screenplay is copied like 60% verbatim, you can sue that person and say, that's my screenplay. You stole it. If it's word, 60% of it is, so you can make that case and you could sue, so I think you probably could establish some kind of statistic that made sense, but I do think categories could be important. Like you just have, especially where things like the Grammys and stuff like that, you have like I don't know how you'd market. You have to think about labels, but essentially purely human made. And then you have like a hybrid category, and then you have like an AI category.
Or it reminds me of like professional sports, like the Sammy Sosa thing. Like most people listening to this probably don't remember this, but it was back in the 90s or early 2000s. Sammy Sosa was a baseball, probably still, he's not anymore, but was a baseball player. And didn't he have like an asterisk next to his Hall of Fame or his record because he had an enhancement, like drug enhancement? He like
there's
sports.
Barry Bonds. Maybe
it was Barry Bonds. I'm sorry, maybe
was
it's not
it McGuire, and then
Mark McGuire. Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire. They had milestones in their career that they have a record of so many hits, so many home runs, so like whatever statistic, and at some point, and I don't know if it still stands now, but they had like an asterisk next to it. It's like, yeah, you got this, but you had enhancements. You had, HGH, you had this, you had that, like, you know what I mean? And
I personally have no problem with that. Do it up, guys.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well,
I want to see the highest level of competition possible.
I want to see somebody clear a home run over the green monster over in Fenway,
I'm like, go for it, guys. But
But where do you draw the line, right? Where do you draw the line?
I think you draw it at something similar, something like, if it's over 60% AI, given people will not follow that. They'll ignore it. They won't be honest. And certainly if you're talking about film studios or record labels, of course they're not going to be honest,
There's a whole thing going on right now where I've read the cursory level articles about this, but there's this underlying conspiracy, and I think it has some basis in truth, that literally on a corporate level there are artists showing up on Spotify, maybe even like encouraged by the platform and the platform's owners, that do the thing, right? They're a pop artist, they're a boy band or whatever. They're not fucking real. They're not real. There's some character art and whatever on the thing. They do not exist. They don't
and
tour.
eventually, if they get big enough, they'll pull a Milli Vanilli, which I feel bad for those guys now.
I know, because they weren't bad like that. Like even like we are good singers. He's like, you know, he had that interview, and they're pissed because they're like, dude, we did this to like break out, and now we're laughing stock. But they were actually talented.
It's really the whole thing is when you actually hear about the thing, it's just kind of sad. But
because one guy took his, unalived himself, which sucks.
It's not cool. I mean, like, but who knows what they'll do? You know, it's like, you know how Daft Punk, they wear these big space helmets and they're in front of a, DJ turntable. I imagine that kind of stuff happens a lot. You'll have a fake artist and they'll just get up there and there'll just be lights and lasers everywhere. And it'll just like, be like, and it'll be
they're not
like,
doing anything.
It'll be like when Lloyd Kaufman has the Toxic Avenger at Comic-Con. He'll just be like, who's getting in the suit today? Jim, you're getting in the suit? Okay. Jim, get in the suit. Okay. It smells though. Just get in the suit. Okay.
Yeah.
Get in the suit. It'll be like, all right, who's the headliner tonight? I don't want to do it. Just get in the suit. Just pretend.
Just do the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just twist knobs,
People will believe it,
Yeah. All right, dude, you want to do some commercials?
We could. Let me just hit the genres that are coming up before we jump into the commercials, because I want people to know what's happening. I've gotten out lo-fi. I've gotten out glitch. I've gotten out, and glitch is as of today, September 20th. That's TSA Tenacity. That's out. That's on my website. It's on SoundCloud, and it's on Pixabay. I have a piano album called Intermissions, and that's coming out in a couple weeks. That'll be out in October. Now, in addition to that, I've got a space album in the works, some more synthwave, and probably some more horror. I think that's going to be the trifecta, because with Halloween right around the corner, I'm going to do some of my traditional horror stuff, but I'm also going to do at least EP of like kid spooky stuff, because I have never gotten around to stuff that's a little light and fun and so
I think you have one or two tracks like that, which I really enjoy. I think we used them in Monster Kill.
Keeps it playful.
Creepy
without
Woods, I think. I like that stuff.
It's not too dark. You can play with it.
It'd be like something that like a parent could have playing in front of their house on Halloween,
right? Without scaring the dickens out of like a 3 or 6-year-old or whatever. Exactly, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't want to go to that house.
Hell? Yeah.
So like that's part of it for me. I think think Scooby-Doo. Like I need to look at some old Scooby-Doo reruns on YouTube in the next week and really just play around and come up with 3 or 4 ideas with that, plus what I have in the tank. That'll be like an 8-song album. So like, screw the EP, it'll be a full length. 8 or more is like a full length for me. So, but those are the ones that are in the mix. But there's plenty of other stuff behind that. Orchestral, there's like, dude, I have like 35 ideas in orchestral that are just sitting there. They're like, please finish me. So I've got that. As I'm thumbing through this thing, I just have so many freaking notes from the last couple weeks. It's insane. But yeah, like I said, to space, synthwave again, some cyberpunk, and I still have to do those intros, man. I still got to do those intros and podcast beds. So for whatever reason, I keep punting those. I don't know if I always try to psychoanalyze that, Tom, because I wonder what's the holdup, man. Like what are you holding back on?
Don't do it then, man. If you don't. Yeah. It doesn't feel right. Don't do it, man.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like I feel like when inspiration hits on a certain genre, hit it, because you're gonna finish it. You're gonna piggyback off of it and do it up. Plus, I have this other incentive. I've had several VSTs, which are, again, that's a virtual instrument for me. For anybody out there that doesn't understand the vernacular, there's several of them out there that I've been wanting to purchase to add to the library to do new stuff with. But I'm like, dude, not until you finish this milestone first. That's your reward. You could like go out and blow $1,000 on those things if you want. I don't care, but just not until you get 1,000. So I'm like, all the more impetus to be like, okay, I want to play with some new toys. So I have to hit a milestone. This kind of incentivization is so freaking important to the disciplinary action of not only music making, but also the movies that we do and everything. Creating milestone incentivizations is key to like keeping pushing forward, because nobody's holding a gun to our heads that we need to actually create art. All things being equal, I'd sit and play video games or, watch movies or, go for a bike ride or walk or something. And it's like, you have to sit down and do the act of creation, right?
Yep. Bit by bit. Yeah. Much like you, I'm compelled to do it and get my work out in the world. I need to. I need to do it for me. But it's a form of communication. It's an odd one, but it's
nobody's holding you to it, but you have to hold yourself to it, or it's not the true form of your own expression, right? Like that's the key. And one of the most recent things that we've discovered is that we want to express ourselves with this whole commercial thing. So what do we, where are we going with that?
Okay. This is right now, it's just a fun thing that we're doing. And so we were calling it VHS Massacre Goes Commercial, but then lately I thought it might be fun to have a cool title, like Enter the Television or something like that. But
what was the thinking behind that? Because we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but if you want to talk about it in real time, that's fine.
Enter the Television?
Yeah.
I think to just make it a little more mysterious and maybe standalone from the VHS Massacre series.
Yeah.
I actually had a talk with Mike Garansky about, I think he really liked the contained sort of trilogy, VHS Massacre. And I think he saw it as a separated entity. And then he liked American Expendables, and he was like, "Oh, you should do a series of those." I was like, "Well, yeah, we want to." Tim and I talk about it all the time. We're just, so he had some good ideas with that. He talked about trying to maybe do York Entertainment catalog, but I was looking through it and I'm like, I don't know.
Which is now defunct, right?
It's now defunct. Yeah. Maverick and York. Maverick put out London Betty. They still exist. They were together, and then I think York separated, and then York went under, but Maverick is still around. That being said, I'd gotten this idea to maybe do something with commercials, because like in when I was doing these VHS hunts, sometimes you'd find these tapes, and it would be someone who just taped a movie off TV, and the commercials would play. And rather than finding them obnoxious and repellent, like most of us do find commercials that way, it was because they were because they were like 20, 30 years old. I was absolutely fascinated by them. Some I remembered, and then some you're just like, why is his hair like that? Why are they using this coin of phrase? What? And they're like, okay, I guess this type of music was popular. Okay, why is that acceptable? And so like you end up trying to examine these things, and they are fascinating. And Marshall McLuhan, who's this media guru and professor in Canada, I think Toronto, and he thought that commercials were the best new art form.
When did he make that statement?
I think this is probably 70s.
Okay.
60s, 70s. And he thought that the people who made commercials were more in touch with the audience than the people who actually made the shows, because the people who made the shows only had to make a great show, whereas the people who had made the commercials had to connect with the audience and then try to get them to buy something. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So they're often very blunt. And
that was a big underlying thing in the 80s from the stuff that we've even watched so far in retrospect, right?
Yes.
Is very direct advertising where they're right in your face, or the advertising is strictly feeling.
Yep.
See what we're showing you? See what we're showing you? This is how we want you to feel. This is somebody feeling the same thing. You feel this. Blah, blah, blah. You want this. Blah, 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 blah. And by the end of it, you're like, I need some Nikes, dude. I got to get it done.
Yeah.
I got to get it done.
So it's absolutely like the term galvanized cultural window. It's certainly like a potent cultural window in a truncated time. So they're really fascinating. So I had a few I wanted to share.
Nice. So this is technically VHS Massacre Goes Commercial 2A, because it's going to be like a mini, just a couple. Like, we're not dedicating this one to it, but this is interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I might actually piece this out. I'll piece this out as a separate video.
That's fine. We can do that. We have the technology.
Okay, I'm going to share this screen. Okay. Now, share this tab instead. Okay, am I going here?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Am I going? Is this working?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about economics right now. Okay. So federal unemployment rate in the 80s was like 4.25%, right? I think the federal rate today is like 7 something an hour, right? Like, nobody pays that. I mean, not any of the states that I have lived in or know of or whatever. There might be some deep South states that still adhere to some of that as a basis if the cost of living there is low enough. That has not met with inflation.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Like, the amount of money you have to spend to feed yourself, to house yourself, to clothe yourself, to put insurance behind you, everything else is absurd, right? We are being pinched. And just looking back in time, I always thought our baby boomer parents or whatever were crazy. Like, when I was your age, I could buy a pack of cigarettes for $0.25.
Yeah.
You know, and that disparity or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, all right, Einstein, like, freaking, wages have increased over time. So in essence, you're paying the same amount. Okay. That has not happened since the 80s.
No.
So
I did a little research on this, and I looked up contemporary Taco Bell. Do they still have these family meals? Lo and behold, they do have family meals for about like $23 tax. Now, lo and behold, accounting for inflation, that's about on par, $20. It's missing. That family had 4 sodas. That's like $10. So it's missing like the whole soft drink element, and also the box in itself is not of the same quality. Like, first of all, there's concessions now in the protein for sure. I didn't think they provided as much, and so it ends up being like that meal. I think would be more like 30 and change, and they're doing like a 23, and you're getting maybe 2/3 of it or something like that.
Right.
So they kind of, it's a weird thing. I was like, oh, you guys were trying to like, I don't know. I felt like they were trying to rationalize what they were keeping with inflation. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, what are they all going to share one soda for $2.50? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, and go back and get refills and stuff. That's not going to last long because they're like, Donnie, you can't do that. No. So
it's not. Yeah. So there's a number of factors, shrinkage with what you get, even if they're labeling the same amount of items. It's all, you've had a contemporary taco from Taco Bell. They're like, there's nothing in it. Yeah.
They're like this big,
Yeah.
They used to be like these giant tacos. They've shrunk down. And like you said, the food quality is,
yeah.
I mean, even McDonald's and like any fast food, all that food quality is diminished.
So you could probably make the case that you're getting half, for more actually.
Yeah.
So
you're for spending more money.
Yeah.
So it's not meeting inflation. In fact, you're getting less value for a higher cost. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So, all right. So,
dude, that just blows me. $5 and change each.
I could feed my whole family for $5. I was like, get the. I'm like, I spend $16 on breakfast for myself in New York City.
I remember a special when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I was living with my buddies, Darren DeFranzo and Sean Hackett. There was a breakfast place in Bristol, Connecticut that had a 99-cent breakfast special. It was 2 scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast. And you could be like, I want 3 of them. And they would just bring you all 3 for breakfast. And you just have 3 plates of this for $3. You would eat like a king. You know what I mean? Dude, it was a 99-cent breakfast. Like, what? You can't find that anywhere. Go to Denny's for a Grand Slam or something like that. Everything's like double digits. That's $11. This is $10. That's $14. You know?
Yeah, it's insane. This one's gonna
Blow my mind.
I think you'll enjoy this one. Wait, I have to share the screen. We got the screen. Okay.
Bonanza.
Okay. You ready?
I am ready.
Ready? Okay.
Who's 79? I can see that restaurant on Route 10 in Southington right now in my head.
Yeah.
Unless that was a Sizzler.
No, that was Bonanza. Yeah.
It was Bonanza?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was a Bonanza, then became Ponderosa.
That's it. Same difference, right? Like
Pretty,
it was
pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how much was that T-bone steak? $2.75 with a baked potato, salad, coffee, tea, and I think ice cream. $2.75. I don't think I calculated inflation on that, but I can try to do that. Let's see. I could round up to $3, I guess.
That is bananas. I can tell you right now, I could get a New York strip at Longhorn Steakhouse right now.
Yeah.
Right? No soda, no dessert, just water. It comes with a side. Let's see. It comes with a potato, some other side. If you get something premium like asparagus, there's an upcharge. So let's just skip that. Let's just say whatever their standard side is, whether it's a salad or their like vegetable of the day or whatever. It's like $27.99. You get a 12-ounce New York strip, typically very lean and good and delicious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like $28
$28.
Plus,
are you saying with tip and everything?
No. That's
Okay.
just the meal. That's just the meal.
So we're talking like $36 probably.
Yeah, out the door?
Out the door.
Probably.
Okay. $3 in 1977 has the purchasing power of $15.99 today. Probably just 15 because it was $2.79.
Mm-hmm.
$15. Yeah, basically
It's double the
double.
cost.
Yeah,
It's double the cost.
it's double. But the shock of the $2 T-bone, I saw that. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there is a massive premium on beef right now. So these tariffs that we're experiencing in 2025 and everything, like those are a factor. There's other supply chain factors that are boosting the cost of that. And but still even factoring that in, it still would be more than $15. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. $15 is like a honestly, like an egg sandwich, like a sausage, egg, and cheese egg sandwich with a coffee.
If I get a $15 steak somewhere right now, like woohoo! You know, I bet you could, but it's probably tiny.
Like a flank steak that's like rough.
Yeah,
or
like a top round or you know, eye of the round or something. You know, something that's got, like you said, it's got a tough quality to it. It's probably it's probably marbleized. If you're into that, some people are into that. They like to render fat and have it in, you know, the flavor, blah blah blah. But
yeah. Well, I got another one for you. I'm gonna let it rip.
Okay. No lead up, man. We'll just hit it. See it already.
This is not
just
the
like
commercial.
when things are packed tidy.
Sorry about the commercials.
Wow, this guy's got quite the intro. Eighth Man DVD HD Classics. All right.
Wow. Like, there's so much wrong
I know.
in this. Like, oh my God, this is a throwback to like, so when we were single digit old, Tom and I, you know, now we're Gen X. So if there's millennials, Gen Alphas, anything, Gen Zs listening to this or whatever, like that was a thing. You can still find these things. In fact, on the trip I took last week, I went to an obscure candy place in Santa Claus, Indiana, that had old-timey obscure candies from like yesteryear, right? Like the little root beer barrel candies, freaking obscure stuff, like Pez dispensers you've never seen before that are like ancient. You can buy them and they're dirt cheap, right? And candy cigarettes.
Yeah.
So they promoted this shit when we were
Yeah.
kids. And they literally had in those things in the sleeve, it's gum. It's gum. So, but in the sleeve of gum, they had powdered sugar. So like as a kid, you'd like push on it and it would look like you were smoking. So literally they were training you to smoke, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like the whole smoking industry, Philip Morris was like, let's get them before they can even buy them, you know? But
Yeah.
I knew kids, myself included, on a couple of rare occasions that the parent would drive up to a convenience store or whatever and be in the car with it idling and send their kid in with money and purchase cigarettes on behalf of their parent. Like you'd get arrested for that today. Like anybody came in there and witnessed that happening, you'd lose your license to sell cigarettes like that. But it's insane to me that it was permissible to advertise in this way because it's clear who they're advertising to. They're not advertising to an adult. They're advertising to kids, you know?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And what is the message? Message is it's healthy. It's not only not bad for you, it's like clean and filtered. And look at this, the white filter.
Oh, he's going through the whole gamut of like why it's a good cigarette and, what makes it taste better than other things. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Like I knew that phrase from my childhood, notwithstanding the freaking, sexist overtones of that whole thing.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah,
it just, and you said it right, just like whatever you'd say, a litany of bad behavior. It's just like normalized bad behavior, I started thinking about that, and I'm like, I'm just trying to get into the mindset of what people were thinking at the time. And I guess it's like the rationalization is that they're Barney and Fred.
Yeah, Fred.
They're laborers, and they work all day in the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this is like either their day off or a weekend.
Right.
And the women are the maintaining the home, I guess. But they're also doing it to be funny. They're showing Fred and Barney are jerks. Like that's part of it. Like ha ha ha, they're being jerks. So it's a little odd. It's
definitely humor of the time. Right?
Yeah.
You had the culmination, like there was women's liberation things peaking there and feminism and stuff coming out of its shell. I mean, that's still black and white, which doesn't mean genre-wise that it was pre-50s or anything. By the contrary, things were still being made in black and white into the 50s and 60s. Sometimes that was budgetary, right? Like you literally, like you made a cartoon, it was too much to do color, full color, like it was expensive, right? Technicolor was what, like that, the big thing was Over the Rainbow. What the hell am I thinking of? The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was which I didn't know this, but that reveal scene, it's total non sequitur, sorry, but that reveal scene when she opens the door to color.
Yeah.
The scene that she's walking from,
it's all painted gray, and she's
it is in color.
Yeah, it's in color. Yeah.
I was like, dude, I was like this many years old when I found out that was the trick.
It was so brilliant. Yeah,
because it was smart. There was no break, there was no cut, right? Mm-hmm. It was all one take, and you're like, how did they do that?
Yeah,
just
so cool.
Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, there's, what I thought about. You could have that sense of humor right now. Lazy guy, his wife's doing all the work. You could make that joke now, but it would be a joke and it would be offensive, and the offensive part would be the joke. The idea that that's like just a extra part of this cigarette commercial is a weird thing, because it almost dwarfs it doesn't quite dwarf, because like they're back hammering cigarettes telling us it's healthy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of confounding. You're like, that's supposed to be the mild joke, and then they're, smoking cigarettes. He
literally is like, yeah, they're working really hard. Yeah, let's go out back so we don't have to look at them.
Yeah, it's like, fuck.
Like, what? Like what?
What? Yeah.
Like,
so
how about appreciating your significant other for hammering out some freaking chores on the weekend?
But that is the joke, that they're shitty, Like they're not making that joke. It's an odd thing, right? They're like, we're shitty. We're going to go back.
Without the right juxtaposition,
yeah,
it could just be like, you're just totally sexist. you know?
Yeah.
And this is inappropriate.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, that was like, oh wow,
That's
that was
fascinating. I had forgotten about that. The second you started rolling it, I was like, oh God, I remember this one.
okay.
You know?
I'm going to share this. I think this is the one you were talking about. I think the first time we couldn't remember exactly what show it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to play it first, and then we'll describe.
What you doing?
Okay. So as a regrettably former smoker back in the day, which I can openly admit that there was a period of time in my life where I did indulge in that. I can tell you this, they never taste good. They're disgusting, and it's a filthy, awful habit, and never pick it up because it's just, there's no benefit. There's no benefit. You think you're like the benefit, really, what they try to push that in those cases, but commercials after that evolved into like, you look cool. I mean, the movie industry was
All about that.
heavily lobbied to include it for the cool guys, you know, and the cool people on screen. And it's not cool. Lung cancer isn't cool, kids.
And also the like I used to really enjoy occasional cigar, which I don't anymore. But like, and they would taste good, but the buzz that you would get, like you'd always pay for it later. You'd feel like
Poisoned,
crap.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few hours later, it would start to seep in. You're like, oh, dude, I don't feel good. There's always a price, you know, so it's just not worth it. But yeah, so I brought that one up because we had a discussion that the first time we were doing this VHS Massacre Goes commercial, and you had said that the commercials used to be embedded into the TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked that up, and that was one that was directly embedded into the TV show as if it wasn't a commercial.
Yeah, and those are Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Yeah, Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the, you know, we were like, what was that? That was it, Beverly Hillbillies. You know,
and it was blatant. Like, so whatever the plot point was of the show was interrupted by this freaking advertising that went on for like 3 minutes. It reminds me of the first season of I Think You Should Leave with T.C. Tuggers, right?
yeah.
And like the principal comes down the hall, and you got these two teenage kids they have some kind of like conflict that they're getting involved with, and they're talking about, and he interrupts the conversation, but then it goes on unbelievably too long about this goddamn shirt, and then like the episode's over, and like that's all they talked about, right?
Yep.
Like none of the real episode drama came out because they put this in the place. I imagine that happened, right? Like they're like, well, we got to fit in these 2 or 3 advertising elements, and you know, I guess
we're paying a lot of money. We got to get our money's worth. So what, you know, and the other thing too is like, did Granny in the following scene, Granny's probably just smoking a regular pipe again. It's not like she's chain smoking cigarettes in the series after that.
Right.
So that's funny. And then also Granny in generally is probably a 45-year-old woman. She's probably like not an old person at all. Like they, you know, it's funny, similar to the Golden Girls. Those were all middle-aged people, you know?
Yeah. Looking back in retrospect, we thought they were ancient. Turns out our generation just looks different. Like
it's just the styles are different. Yeah.
Yeah.
The hair is different. Styles are different. Yeah.
Yeah. And they
That's
kind
a
of
lot of
aged you more, right? Like heavy facial hair that's unkempt, clothing styles, the style of your hair, like made you look ancient, you know?
One theory is stress and dehydration is one theory. Well, if you go back far enough, I'm not talking about Beverly Hillbillies. You went back 100 years, you know, stress and dehydration possibly. But but I don't know. People could be watching this 50 years from now and
think we look ancient.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probable, actually, right?
Yeah.
With anti-aging and stuff like that.
Sure.
They'd be like, why did they...
We could be looking at ourselves and be like, why we look so old? We had some like new tonic.
Why did they pick late 40s, early 50s? Why didn't they just stay at 35? You know what I mean? Like it's a choice later, you know? But yeah. So I thought that was fascinating.
You got one more?
I have one more. It's short. And it has nothing to do with anything. This one is...
That's a good setup, Tom. I think that's perfect. Hey, this is a short for commercial. It's got nothing to do with anything. Go. I have no preconception with that lead up.
It has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, hold on. Let me get it set up. All right.
What the? Christ. God. Dude, that's like if Cyberpunk sucked, you know?
I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of stuff. Yeah, that was my instinct.
And that also felt like the commercial before the Running Man, you know? Like,
yeah,
it had that feeling. It had that Running Man feeling where like it was just like really cheesy commercials. And they were doing that in real time in the 80s not as opposed to some like ironic musing 20, 30 years into the future. You know, that was like, they meant that commercial.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not ironic at all. And there's a lot going on where you're like, okay, it's in the 80s. I'll have to now nail down the exact date, but there's clearly a big theater musical element to it. Kind of
Why did it seem like Cats too? What the hell was going on there?
Yeah, Cats. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it seemed
what
like
kind
Cats.
Of drugs was Andrew Lloyd Webber doing for that musical anyway?
I have no idea.
My God,
it's
probably none. I don't want to get sued. So
yeah, and what was that? What was the other one with the roller skates to play? I forget that one.
God, what was that? What, Saturday Night Fever?
It's not Zootopia. I can't think of the name of it, but these kind of musical and sort of flash dance vibe.
Yeah.
Dance numbers in the middle of movies and Xanadu. Xanadu was
Yeah. That might have been more mid-70s. That was
okay.
And that was not Gloria Estefan, Australian singer. What's her name? She was the lead. She was the female lead in it. Not Pat Benatar. My God, I can't think of her name. What was her name?
Star of Xanadu?
Yeah.
I could look it up.
Yeah, because she was big in the disco era.
Olivia Newton-John?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a big disco era singer, and she was a lead in that whole thing, or at least the music was her. I thought she started it too.
So, but anyway, so this commercial, it's selling a car. I don't even know what car that was. Oh, it was
Toyota Supra, which is honestly, it's a pretty powerful sports car, the high end ones. And so, but that did not look sexy at all.
It's just,
it looked like a glorified Matchbox car, you know?
Yeah. Right, sort of bright pink and lasers everywhere. And so typical 80s, an excess of everything, sound and light and movement.
Gaudy, right?
Oh my God. So gaudy. Yeah. And that they thought that was a good advertising tool. I think obviously skewing towards the female demographic for that car. If you ran that commercial today, I think people would just be like,
what am I watching?
What is this?
Or maybe interested in it because they thought it was ironic, right?
Yeah.
And it was retroly ironic on purpose.
So the message is, buy this car and your life will be like that.
Yeah. Full of lasers and dancers and a pink sports car. The end.
Yeah.
The
end. Yeah. Interesting, I thought.
That's pretty well.
That's the last one I found, and I was like, that is a bit much, was my reaction.
Yeah, let's end on that one. Holy crap. That's amazing. Well, it just reminds me, like, between this and the last time, there's going to be plenty for us to aggregate into something. And we're going to find more gems, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Right? This is fun, right? Just keep finding random stuff. Yeah. So
stumbling upon things that I misremember or forgot and then come back to. There's ones that I know I should remember, but the memory is completely gone. And then there's a sliver of it that I'm like, yes, I remember like that show or that commercial or whatever. I just don't remember the details anymore. And then to come back to it, it's like you're rediscovering your past. And then in watching it, you're like, that's not even close to the person I am today, and I can't even relate to it anymore. Like, that's the weird thing that happens with nostalgia like this, is you rediscover something that has no basis or place in your reality anymore. And it feels incredibly foreign. At the time, I'm sure we didn't think anything of it, right? It just was. But now looking back on it, it doesn't, because it's not timely. It's not classic. It's not something that can go from generation to generation and feel like normal. It now feels out of place and awkward and strange.
Yeah.
It's
detached from the zeitgeist. It's connection. That's the thing too, right? These commercials have connectors.
Mm-hmm.
And the connectors are detached from the culture, Like, so the cigarette commercial, cigarette smoking was widely accepted anywhere in a restaurant.
Planes.
Planes.
Yeah.
Great example. The
schools. Like you can go to an auditorium in a school and watch a school play, and I'm sure people are smoking in there.
Yeah. Joking around about your wife doing housework is, you'll see those TikTok videos, but it's absurdist. You know what I mean? And
what do you want to get her for Christmas? She'd love a new Electrolux. We got to find that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So but this absurdist humor would have no place in a contemporary commercial.
No.
You were going to try to sell commercials. That's the last thing you would do is make it about, gender or something, But I think, I don't know. I'd have to examine that. There could be an angle where that could work.
It'd be very specific.
Yeah. So yeah, these commercials are slowly detached at their connection point. We were talking about, it's about connecting to the audience, and in that very time that they were made, within that year, really. There were commercials that would run for several years. You think about the time to make the donuts guy.
Mm-hmm.
That commercial was like forever.
Yeah. It was effective.
Yeah.
It was effective. And really, until people started saying like, you probably shouldn't eat donuts every day,
Right. Yeah.
Or multiple donuts every day. Now, granted, there are times that I get like a 6-pack and I'm like, yeah, well, they're going to go bad. I'm going to have one. There's like no bad calories. There's just like total.
Well, yeah, the food pyramid, right?
Yeah.
The food pyramid is like, dude, eat grain all day.
Yeah.
Carbs and grain. Just eat carbs and grain and sugar all.
Well, yeah, 30 years later, they're like, oh, the diabetic epidemic and the obesity epidemic, come to find out, all that shit, if you overeat it, just turns to fat, and it's not great for your arteries,
No, yeah, it's absurd, but yeah. So anyway, I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I think we'll keep going with this, and I think there's a lot of, we haven't even delved into fast food yet, right? Oh no, we did Taco Bell, but we didn't do, like, we could do Wendy's, Where's the Beef? There's all sorts of stuff we could do,
Yeah. The Where's the Beef thing, that was a long-term thing in the 80s too. The Noid from Domino's.
Yep.
That was a big thing. So, but yeah, today's been kind of a kitchen soup because we had to play catch up a little bit on various things and then sneak in this stuff as well. But it's good. It's good. Shows people that we're like, do a lot of stuff, just because 48 and 50 respectively doesn't mean that you can't be ambitious and have multiple interests and still have careers and families and everything else. So it's important to keep pursuing those things and ask questions and explore things and artistically, and then share it with the world and make sure that other people understand like what interests you and what excites you, because that excitement becomes infectious and people piggyback off of it and they get excited about it too. Next thing you know, you're entertaining people with the things that entertained you and interested you. Just, I don't know if I want to end on a philosophical note. There we go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. Thank you, Mr. Tim Kulig.
Absolutely. We'll catch you all guys again soon on these two podcasts. Later.